All right, so we are out in the wilderness, and I'm here with my best friend. Yeah, you got that title. You are my best
Likewise.
friend. Oh, dude, I've been waiting for that for like 15 years now. So he is my best friend. We've known each other for 15 years, maybe a little bit more. I think a little bit longer than 15 years, but met back in middle school, and this is going to be my third hunt that I'm going to be going on. Got a buck tag, and I decided I was going to invite Josh. So, before we get into this, Josh, if you would just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, so I've known Lee since middle school. A lot of fond memories there. You don't hold on to very many friends from that time period, but tell you what, you grow together real well. Of course, we got complicated history on that, but that'll be another day. So we've had very different lifestyles. I actually ended up as a teacher, so I teach middle school now, ironically, and big outdoorsman, lots of bushcraft, lots of camping, hiking, backpacking, off-roading, shooting, you name it. I mean, if it's outside, I'm all about it. And the fortunate thing is we've been able to do so much of it together that we've really been able to hone our skills together, laugh at each other when we screw up, and it always makes for really good times. Like people that listen to us are just dumbfounded. I don't know if that's a good thing. I think it is.
I think it is.
We do some crazy stuff.
Those are the
but
best memories.
Yeah,
When you plan and plan and plan and nothing goes right,
nothing at all.
those get ingrained in your memory.
Honestly, I don't think I could be a middle school teacher without our experiences because you do the same thing. You plan and plan and plan, and then hormones.
Yeah, a
It's done.
class full of hormones.
Just it's all destroyed.
Raging.
Everything is destroyed.
Oh, man. So, we talked a little bit about this, and how, tell us about your hunting experience, your hunting history.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. I had a grandfather. In fact, I had two different grandfathers, one on each side of the family, and they both hunted at some point in time in their lives. Unfortunately, I am the youngest child, and they had all pretty much cut out a majority of their hunting by the time that I was at an age where I could accompany them on these things. So on one side of the family, it was just stories about his hunts. I mean, everything from rabbit to chukar to coyotes, you name it, he had hunted it. And with him, he was former military, uh, one of the main people that raised me, and he just told me, he's like, well, stop being fun when you never miss and they never see it coming, and it's just not fair. It's not sportsmanlike, which I thought was kind of an interesting perspective. But he'd tell me the stories about how he would hunt and he just didn't miss and he wasn't seen. I mean, he had sniper training, he had a really complicated history that I probably can't even talk about on YouTube. But so that's one side of the family, and that's where I got a majority of the stories from. On the other side of the family, he'd done a lot of hunting, and for him, it was all about feeding his family. He didn't have a lot of money, and sometimes the only way to feed his kids was to make sure that he filled his tag. And fortunately, he was a very good hunter. My experiences, though, by the time I was old enough to accompany him, I only got to go with him on a scouting trip a couple of times where it was very much just hanging out in the truck while he did things. We like picked huckleberries and stuff, and I honestly didn't even really know it was for scouting. I mean, he didn't really share that part of his life with me. So an experience with you it's really not going to be something that I can say, oh yeah, I've got all this stuff that I've done before and it's going to be, I'm going to be a huge asset. It's no, I'm going to be the rookie. I'm going to be the person that's just learning as much as I can about it because my experience is minimal at this point.
You know what they also call that? Pack mule.
Pack mule, huh?
The pack mule.
My grandfather had a different term for that. It was gopher. Go for this, go for that.
Yep. Yeah, so I've got my channel, and my thing is a 338 Lapua, and everyone says that is an overkill round for anything smaller than an elk.
You know what I have to say about that? Overkill never fails, and it's
Overkill.
underrated.
Very underrated. Now, everyone, I've heard it from probably 7 different people that you're going to end up destroying the meat. And, the 338 Lapua is going to blow a giant hole through. It's going to rip the animal in half. And it doesn't. My first hunt was an antelope. So, the smaller of the big game here in Nevada. We don't have any Coues deer. Coyotes. I haven't gone after coyotes with the 308 or the 338, but done it with the 5.56. But the 338, with the antelope, I think it's dependent on the round. And the rounds that I used, it was just about as big as a 308 would do to an antelope. My first hunt was basically the same scenario we got now. I got invited to a hunt, had no idea what I was doing, ended up being the pack mule, but got to learn all of this stuff so that my first hunt, I'd know enough to be able to do it. Now, after one hunt, you're not a master, and there are still tons of things that I did not know until my second hunt, and that was a doe. Got her 612 yards, and that 338, that was a good long shot. Little off, a little too, a little far back on her, but everything worked out, and we were done with our hunt 7 o'clock in the morning. Right after first light, we were out there at the butt crack of dawn. But there's a lot of questions that, I didn't get answered the first time that, either figured out or, had the guy that first invited me out there, and, I'd ask, okay, so what do we do with this? What do we do with this? And ended up working out really great, and learned a lot from it. And there's also tons of resources. We got podcasts, YouTube videos, and there's so many people in the hunting community that want to teach. And as hunters, we want, the younger generations, our kids, to learn how to be able to do this stuff so that they can provide for themselves or their families, or be sufficient and contribute to conservation, which is very important. But with that being said, I want to know what kind of expectations. So going to this hunt, what do you picture is going to happen?
Yeah, so we've had some conversations about this.
Yeah.
And so we've done a whole bunch of e-scouting, which has been a blast. And this whole thing, like the hunt doesn't start with the shot. There's so much that happens beforehand, and we've already started engaging in that, which has been really cool for me to kind of get up to speed on this. We know the terrain that we're going to go to. We have different spots that we want to scout out, and we've both been able to just check it out on maps, and we've seen what we're going to be able to drive to, what we're going to need to hike to. And one of the things I'm most excited about is I don't feel like there's a whole lot of people that would be willing to do some of the haul that we're going to do. The fact that we already have a background in backpacking, and we don't mind carrying a good 50 pounds on our backs up and down mountains helps out on it. So honestly, my expectation on this is going to be that it's going to be a kick-ass camping trip. We're going to go out there, we're going to see a whole bunch of wildlife. We're going to hike up a bunch of mountains. We're going to cuss and swear the whole time we're doing it. And we're going to get to the tops of these ridges, see these magnificent animals.
Beautiful views.
Oh, the views. I'm excited because the area that we're going to I've never been to, and I really enjoy exploration. Seeing something new is a huge reward for me, and it's one of my biggest deals. And so, yeah, this trip, it's going to be about that exploration. It's going to be about seeing that animal in its natural environment. It's going to be about, helping to provide for the family. It's going to be just a really good time hanging out with my best friend, being able to do something that I've never done before. That's something that you can't put a price on. You can't expect what's going to happen, as we well know. Every time we've done something for the first time,
yeah,
you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, it just hits the fan, just shoots everywhere. Oh man, but they make the best stories, and it's not the kill that you remember. It's not the animal that you remember. It's everything that's involved around it. And, yeah, I can remember, my first antelope, but it was the driving all day long with complaining kids in the back because they wanted to go on this hunt. Because this is the first hunt they went on. And, I wasn't about to have them hiking up and down mountains trying to find these antelope, going through the hills, making tons of noise, because that wouldn't have worked. So we drove back and forth, and and it wasn't always complaining. They were asking questions and trying to learn, and that was the most rewarding for me. And I've told Josh, like, I'm more excited about him being there than actually being able. I could not find an animal, and just us being out there, seeing what we're gonna see, doing what we're gonna do, spending that time together, and just having a good time, relaxing, getting away from everything, and spending time with nature. It's going to be more memorable than, taking down a buck. Now, granted, bonus points for doing that, but it's the memories that you build with each other.
Yeah, hey puppy. Everything's fine.
So, with all of our adventures that we've gone on, and all of the crazy things that we've been caught up in, and the injuries that have happened from those, and what can you imagine anything that could possibly go wrong?
I mean, how long is this video going to be?
Well, okay, let's reduce it to like 2-3 minutes.
All right, so let's just say that our history together, we've essentially broken everything that we've touched. So if we're looking at hunting, the things that could go wrong, let's start with the drive there. 4 hours. We got a 4-hour drive, just highway, to get to the campsite. We've been in vehicles when a wheel has literally come off of the vehicle. So I like to think that we got nicer vehicles now. So maybe we make it there. Maybe we make it to the campsite. Okay, so we're at the campsite. We got 2 rigs, so one way or another we can make it there.
Yeah.
Get the other rig later if it breaks. So get to the campsite. All right. Let's see. Maybe we're sleeping in our rigs. Maybe we got a tent. Honestly, we haven't had too many experiences with tents failing or our sleeping situation failing. That's been pretty smooth. So that's probably what's going to go wrong.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, we're going to be 4 hours away, and we're not going to have heat, or we're not going to have something. Like, I think that's probably the most likely, because that's something that we haven't seen yet. We've had firearms malfunction. We've had cuts happen. Not all from knives. Like, very dull things can still cut you, and it's worse.
Like shale on the side of a mountain.
Like shale on the side of a mountain.
In a whiteout blizzard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. So, what could go wrong? I can't tell you for sure what's going to go wrong, because something will, but I can guarantee you that after this trip, when we're sitting by a fire later and we're telling these stories, that we're going to look back at it and we're going to go, man, I can't wait to do that again.
Can't wait to do it again.
Every single time we're on a trip, even if it is the most bullshit trip we've ever been on, and just everything's going wrong. It's costing us money. It's costing us time. We've bled for it. Like, it's a sketchy situation. And every single time we come back and we're just like, you know what? That was awesome.
That was great. Let's do it again.
I mean, we, our bodies are kind of worn out because we've had some awesome fucking lives. And a lot of it, I think, is because things don't go smoothly, and that's just life.
And that's also experience, too. I mean, you come out here and you drive a rig and you end up getting a flat or something like that. You are now better prepared to know how to handle that. Having a spare tire, having a patch kit, whatever. On the first hunt I went on, drove out there, halfway into this 4-hour drive just to get to the campsite. The guy I was hunting with realized I forgot my tag. We're already 2.5 hours away from his house. He forgot his tag. We can't do anything with it. And he wasn't about to drive backwards. So he ended up having the tag overnighted to an RV park where he picked it up there. But we get there, As soon as we get there, literally nothing, no weather, nothing, and then we get there, and then it's just a blizzard of a storm comes rolling in. While we're trying to set up our tents, trying to get situated, and we are getting dumped on. Finally get the tent set up. We're all soaking wet, don't have a fire pit ready. We just end up, climbing into our bags, hoping that we'll dry off. And we wake up the next morning. You go to bed with wet clothes, a lot of condensation. Tents are frozen, zippers are frozen. We can't get out of our tents. We're trying, I end up busting the zipper on my tent. He got his open after a good 15 minutes, but he's sitting there blowing on it. We can hear listening to him blowing on his zipper. So we get out, and it was like 4 inches of snow on the ground. So we end up getting in the Jeep, and the heaviest fog I have ever been in. We go out and we're trying to find, spots. Okay, maybe we can come back tomorrow and glass this spot. And we're marking them on the map, on the GPS. Go back because we can't do nothing. Next day we go out, and every single spot that we had marked was garbage. Terrible vantage points, couldn't see nothing, or you're looking at the side of another hill that's 15 feet in front of you that we didn't see because of the fog. And then after this hunt, we're getting ready to leave. Ends up blowing out a tire. Blows out the tire. Didn't have an Allen wrench for the hubcap cover. So I literally had to grab the thing, rip it off, broke his hubcap, and then he's got keyed lug nuts. Did not have the key. So literally had to go pound on sockets onto every single lug nut just to get the spare on there. So we pound on the sockets, get the lug nuts off. 3 of those lug nuts still had the sockets on them when we got back to Vago Tires for them to fix the flat tire. So finally get back, and the ice, it was in the back of his truck. The wind had blown open one of the cooler lids, and he didn't notice it. And all of that ice was completely melted. The meat was warm from sitting in the back of this truck, driving back to town after 4 hours. And so he ended up losing probably a good 15 pounds worth of meat. Luckily, the back straps and the tenderloin weren't in there. But while we're at the camp, there was this pop-up canopy. We get the thing corded out, and he was going to do a European mount. So he's got the trophy hanging up on the mantle, as you would, on this pop-up canopy, and the day started getting warmer. And we found out why the people who had that canopy left that canopy there, because it was a nice canopy. As the weather started warming up, so did the nest of wasps that were living inside the poles, the legs of that canopy. And they started coming out, and there was a good 200 wasps just flying and swarming and trying to eat that skull. And we're freaking out because we're trying to cover our food. We're trying to get the deer back into a bag. So he ended up just, bug netting it, tied it up, wasping everything in there, threw it in the ice chest. Luckily, that wasn't the ice chest that got the lid blown on it either. But all of those things, you go into this and you have no idea what could go wrong. You could be hiking in the mountains, trip and fall on cactus, because there's going to be cactus out there, by the way. Roll your ankle on a rock, or something, just anything could happen. There's coyotes out there, mountain lions, you never know. Or we could get blizzard in on another snowstorm when we're 6 miles away from camp with backpacks. So those are the ones that make the memories. Even though you say it sucks, and at the time it just sucks and it's terrible. Those are always the stories that we talk about when we're sitting around the campfire. So, I think it was the last time we went camping, I brought a cut of meat from that doe. And judging by your expression and the sounds you were making, it sounded like you really enjoyed that cut of meat. Now, do you think that after tasting that, and after going on this hunt that we're going to go on, do you think you'll end up becoming a hunter?
I could definitely say that it's likely. Uh, every element of it, aside from taking the shot and falling an animal, is something that I like to do already. And when we look at when you're doing ethical hunting, when you are going by the guidelines that help protect these species and they help to balance the populations and things, then really it is kind of an honor to participate in that. I mean, if I am getting my meat from a place, out in the wild, something that I love doing, I know that the animal lived out in this place and had this life of, freedom. It puts a different spin on it than most people that have zero comprehension of where their meat comes from. They don't understand that most meat that they buy at the store was from an animal that never ever saw the outside of a fence.
Yeah.
Probably didn't see the outside of a very small pen.
Mm.
And I don't know, that's just different. I mean, you can look at it however you want. You can look at it that we're taking the life of this free animal, but we're taking the lives of animals for all of our food.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you're going to have respect for that animal, we kind of talked about this before, that respect for the animal, you can't have that for this faceless, cow that lived in a pen. I mean, but when you have this animal that you know where it lived, you know that when you took your shot that it fell and it was quick, it was as painless as it could be. Like, that's something that I'd be into. I mean, I can honestly say that I think my only hesitation on it would be if I were to have a crap shot. Like, I would feel awful if that animal suffered because of my inadequacies. And so it's certainly something I'm going to need to do some preparing on it. I mean, we're already kind of known for shooting golf balls at 3, 4, 100 yards. But it's a lot different when you're talking about an animal and taking a shot and it's not perfect conditions. It's not at a range. It's not in an area that's familiar. And I don't think that I have that skill yet. But I think that when I feel that skill is adequate to where I know that this animal is not going to suffer just so it can supply me and my family with food, that's something that I'd be interested in doing.
You touched on the conservation and protecting these animals, and a lot of people don't understand that if hunters did not go out and hunt, these animals would end up eating themselves into starvation. And to break that down is they live in a certain ecosystem, and when there's too many eating, and they end up eating more food than there is for the animals, and so they end up eating so much that they no longer have any food, and a whole herd starves to death because they can't find food anymore because they've eaten it all. So having hunters, and I mean people all around the world, Australia, New Zealand, they say that the American model for conservation is the best model in the world. In Australia, they've got, I think it's 6 different breeds of deer, and these deer, I mean, they have no regulation. You go out, you want to go hunt, you go out, you go hunt, you kill as many as you want, and they're starting to see the impacts of that. Here in North America, we used to have 3 different types of antelope, and we only have one now, and it's the pronghorn. And that was before the conservation movement happened, and we ended up hunting these animals into extinction. Some of them ended up eating themselves out of their habitat and ended up starving to death. So having that perfect balance and that good balance, and a lot of people complain about the tag system, the draw system, but the way it's set up, it makes sure that we're not going to hunt them into extinction and that they're not going to eat themselves into extinction. So being a part of the conservation, it's great, and that that applies. So when you apply for your tag, you're automatically donating to the conservation. So these people can go out, monitor the animals, check their habitat, determine how many tags they need to give out to help balance the whole ecosystem there.
And that money doesn't just go to the government and disappear into some slush fund. It's like,
Yeah.
no, this is how
No.
we fund, knowing how many animals are out there, how many can we, open up tags for.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people that they've been asked, like, okay, so what pays for conservation? A lot of people assume that it's tax dollars. There isn't a single tax that gets deducted from your paycheck or any other tax that goes to conservation. It's all through the people that are hunting and donating to conservation. So being a part of that is just it's self-fulfilling, because we're going to be able to enjoy these animals, and we're going to be able to enjoy it for generations and get our kids to enjoy them, and their kids and our grandkids, and being able to pass that on, and the appreciation for the animal, the respect for that animal. People have a misconception that we just want to go out and kill animals, and it's not that at all. I mean, you'll go out there for 2 days and you won't pull the trigger. You'll just sit there and watch the animals, because they're beautiful, and the curiosity spikes when you see them doing something. You're like, why are they doing that? That's so goofy. Why is this one chasing this one? And you get to watch them and you understand these animals better, and filling that freezer, providing for your family, doing it in a way that that animal that you are partaking in had a good life, instead of sitting in a butcher, a slaughterhouse its whole entire life, in a cage, getting pushed around its whole entire life. And some of the footage we've seen, it's terrible for these animals. And having that appreciation, because you go to the supermarket, you see a weight, and you see a price tag, and that's as far as most people think about their meat.
Yep.
So,
and they think they're humane. I think that's the thing.
I know.
Like,
Yeah,
I may not have a lot of experience with hunting, but one of the things that both my grandfathers really emphasized is just like, no, you just let somebody else do the killing for you.
yeah.
And you don't know how that took place. And like they really kind of opened my eyes to that as a kid, even though I didn't get to hunt.
Yeah. Yeah. So, we got, what is it, 3 months? June, July, August, September. Yeah, so about 3 months. 3 months before our hunt, we're going to go out there, and it worked perfectly because you're going to be on winter break.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally, his break starts the day of the hunt, so we're going to go out there that weekend, 2 days before the hunt, do some scouting, try to find a good buck, good mature buck, that, will fill both of our freezers, because he's getting half of it, since he's going to go out there and he's going to help me with all this stuff and packing this animal out. We're gonna backpack in, find this animal, and backpack out.
I'm gonna learn some stuff too, like how to quarter the animal and stuff. Like my experience with cleaning game is basically limited to fish. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, it's gonna be different.
Yeah,
Just a little bit.
yeah. I'm actually super excited about it.
Yeah.
It's gonna be different.
So next video is probably gonna be when we're actually heading out there. We're gonna probably do a little gear check and get on the road and do some scouting, take tons of pictures. That was another thing. My last hunt, I didn't take a single picture. I went to go start making my cut on this doe. First cut, I wasn't under the skin. Went to go up, and it came out and sliced right across my finger. Sliced it wide open. And so I was more worried about not bleeding out on the side of this mountaintop and then taking pictures. So we didn't get any pictures, but we're gonna have tons of pictures. It's gonna be a great hunt. I'm super excited for it. Super excited that Josh is gonna be out there and being able to share this experience with him. My kids are a little pissed off at you because you're going and they're not.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
still smiling. I love your kids, but
yeah,
I'm excited.
You have to bite the bullet on this one.
Hey, they'll watch the video.
Exactly, and they'll show them pictures and.
Well, and one thing that I do kind of want to throw out there is, for all of you guys that are looking at this and you're like, conservation, my ass, like these guys don't give a crap. I mean, our background and my background, like my YouTube channel, there are multiple areas where when I'm going out and I'm exploring in these wilderness areas, and I'm learning about these animals, and I'm seeing them in their natural habitat, and I'm seeing what their conditions are and that sort of thing, and doing what I can to support that. I mean, just because I am looking forward to the hunt doesn't make me this, person that devalues the lives of these animals, or it's not that I have like a thirst for blood or some crazy crap that people think when they think the word hunting. It's another part of the human experience. We eat meat. And up until now, aside from the fish that I catch, all my meat comes from a store, or in rare circumstances, I get to have backstrap from, someone that's been hunting. I eat the meat that my grandfather hunted, and it's different. It tastes good. It's a whole different experience. It's a whole nother way to establish an understanding and a respect for these creatures. It doesn't mean that, I'm gonna go on this first hunt, I'm gonna become this crazy hunter, and I'm gonna go out into this wildlife conservation area and go poach a bunch of deer or something. I mean, that's not what this is about. This is about understanding that there are more ways to connect with that environment and to connect with like our own human nature.
Yeah.
And it's something that I haven't been able to do, and I'm kind of I want to experience that. I want to know what that is.
Yeah. The way that it was put for me is if we don't hunt them, we're not going to have them. They'll end up dying off, just like many other breeds have, because, like I said, they eat themselves out of their habitat. And if it wasn't for the hunters, the tag system, the conservation movement, a lot of these species that we love to see when we're out hiking and exploring and checking out all these things, those beautiful moments that we have, they would be gone because these animals wouldn't be able to make it. And a lot of people, they've done it for thousands of years. And with us expanding our territory, well, not territories, but our cities and stuff like that, we're moving them and moving them and moving them, and their space is getting smaller. And it's our fault, but in order for us to keep these animals around, we have to make sure that there's not too many of them. And also so that there's not too few. But it's going to be great. I can't wait to get out there. And it's the sights alone are just absolutely amazing. And it's breathtaking. It's one of those things that you close your eyes at that night, and that's all you can see is that mountain ridge or that giant valley with a herd of 300 antelope just running across it. It's absolutely gorgeous. And I can't wait to be able to share those with you. Can't wait to get good pictures, good meat, that I know where it came from and how that animal was treated its whole life, and it's going to be an awesome time. So thank you, Josh. Appreciate it, and I cannot wait for this hunt.
I'm super excited. I'm glad you invited me.
Oh, it's going to be a good time.